enter call, please enter your conference code followed by the pound or hash sign.
This is Roger with the National Water Service. Everyone can use your phone lines, but it'll help at the end when it comes time for questions.
The leader has muted your line. To unmute your line, press pound 6.
Briefing, Tropical Storm Barry briefing for 4:30 p.m. Looking at our slideshow here, the opening situation overview. Barry hasn't strengthened any today, so we're still expecting it to go up to a Category 1 hurricane before landfall Saturday in south central Louisiana. Because of the timeline that we got now, we have changed some of the watches and warnings. We now have a hurricane warning in effect for Vermilion, Iberia, and St. Mary parishes, and a tropical storm warning and hurricane watch is in effect for Cameron Parish. A flash flood watch continues for Avoyelles, St. Landry, Lafayette, St. Martin, Vermilion, Iberia, and St. Mary parishes. And the storm surge watch continues for Vermilion, Iberia, and St. Mary parishes as well. Our next slide that we're looking at here shows different hazards, very similar to what we showed earlier. Basically, the wind hazard focusing on south central Louisiana Friday night and Saturday. Storm surge inundation for coastal areas of Vermilion, Iberia, and St. Mary parishes Friday night and Sunday. The heavy rain threat is actually increased for some of our area. We're going to show a slide here in a little bit about it. It's basically lower St. Martin and St. Mary parishes. So just be aware of that. We're going to be showing the threat over there. The tornado threat's pretty much the same for south central and central Louisiana as well. So here's the latest forecast track. Really no significant change in terms of the track location. And the error cone you can see still covers pretty much all of Louisiana. So with this forecast track, this isn't the time to let your guard down in Louisiana at all. Just because right now we're saying a landfall projection in south central Louisiana doesn't say this thing couldn't take a little jog to the left or west and make landfall further that direction. At the same time, probably southeast Texas is looking very good at this stage of the game, but for sure, everyone in southwest Louisiana, I wouldn't totally let your guard down at this stage of the game yet. The visible satellite imagery today, and I can't create a loop of it because it won't show up correctly on the slideshow here for you, but we've had several 3 to 6 swirls seen on the northern edge of Tropical Storm Barry, rotating around a very large, broad, low-pressure area. The diameter of the tropical storm force winds is like 210 miles across. So this isn't a small system. This is a very large system that's covering a very large section of the Gulf of Mexico. Hurricane force winds aren't there yet, but in terms of tropical storm force winds, it's a very large section of the Gulf. A couple of key takeaways here that I wanted to add to the slide here. One is that storm motion for weak systems can be very erratic. A lot of times the center of circulation in weak systems will sometimes redevelop closer to where thunderstorms are developing out there. So like today we've got thunderstorms out west and south of the system. That potentially could slightly cause the system to wobble one direction or another. So just be aware of that as you start seeing it on the radar pictures out of Slidell and Lake Charles, as well as the satellite imagery, that this will more than likely not be a straight line storm. It will be a wobbly looking track as it's heading towards the Louisiana coastline. And so that's why it's important for us not to focus on an individual track, because there's going to be impact across a very large section of the state of Louisiana. So here's your tropical storm wind probabilities, basically the highest values of 60 to 70% and even an 80 to 90% now approaching south central Louisiana. And then you can see the lower values over in southeast Texas. They're anywhere from 10 to 30% over there. The hurricane force probabilities are also very small. You can see that the 10 to 20% basically extends near the coastal areas of south central Louisiana. And we're not expecting hurricane force winds from this situation for most of southwest Louisiana or southeast Texas. Now, here's the wind impacts graphic that, is something for everyone to be aware of. Most of the area you can see is shaded in orange, and that's wind speeds of 58 to 73 miles an hour. Anything from a mid-level to the upper end of a tropical storm system. And you can see that extends all the way over to Lake Charles and Cameron, halfway through Beauregard up to DeRidder, up towards Leesville, Alexandria. So even though we're focusing a lot on south central Louisiana, the reality is the wind gusts can still go very strong this far west. So just be aware of that even though we're not projecting the landfall over here in southwest Louisiana, even on the west side, you can see some very strong winds associated with that. For those of you that may not remember 2002 with Hurricane Lily, Lily made landfall over in Vermilion Parish, but yet we had tropical storm force winds all the way over into southeast Texas. So I totally expect to see wind gusts of tropical storm force winds all the way into southeast Texas, probably on the lower side in the 40 to 50 mile an hour range on Saturday. But we could see the numbers approaching 60 miles an hour here in southwest Louisiana. All right, next one we're looking at here shows the timing of the arrival of tropical storm force winds. And we're looking at basically 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. for south central Louisiana. That's the earliest time of arrival for tomorrow morning. However, the most likely time of arrival is going to be tomorrow night. The next slide isn't different from what we showed earlier. The storm surge watch, that continues for coastal areas of Vermilion, Iberia, and St. Mary parishes. And the storm surge impacts graphic shows the same thing. Just for informational purposes, we're talking about water levels of 3 feet above ground level south of Highway 14 in Vermilion Parish, and then also south of 14 in Iberia Parish, and then west of Highway 90 in St. Mary Parish. So when you think of communities in those zones, Intercoastal City, Sycamore Point, Burns Point, those are some of the larger communities that we have that are in this storm surge threat zone. Now, here's the kind of the big story of this event that we got right now. It's the rainfall totals. The numbers have gone up significantly. If you look in south central Louisiana, we got a 15 to 20 inch bullseye over Morgan City, and it extends into lower St. Martin Parish. Now, I always tell people, take what we say and double it for worst case scenario. So if you double that, now you're talking about 30 to 40 inches of rain. That's not as much as what we saw a couple of years ago over in Texas, but this is enough that's going to cause widespread, deadly flooding down there in lower St. Martin and St. Mary parishes. So this is something really important to focus on. Even though we may not be talking about big storm surge and whatnot, we're still going to see a lot of flooding going on down there from the rainfall associated with it. This is going to be a long-duration rain event for that part of the state. In actuality, it's going to be extending further east into the Houma region, up into Assumption Parish as well, perhaps even Baton Rouge. So we're on the fringe of it, but it's something that's worth mentioning here for the folks in St. Martin and St. Mary parishes, that this is a very serious situation to take into effect and to be aware of what you got going on down there. The forecast for Morgan City and the Atchafalaya hasn't been updated yet, showing that 9 foot from earlier. But, remember, with this much rainfall forecasted down there, this will likely have to get upgraded from that number. And obviously, with this much rain, we're talking about significant flooding also into the Stevensville area. I know they've done a lot of work down there with the barges and whatnot, but the barges aren't going to help this much rain falling in that localized area there. So this is a very dire situation for the people down in those communities that maybe aren't expecting storm surge, but they're going to have significant flooding from the rainfall down there. Here's the rainfall threat graphic. So the pink on here is extreme flooding rain, and you can see that extends basically across eastern St. Mary Parish and lower St. Martin Parish for our area, and then over there towards Halma, like I mentioned, and almost up to Baton Rouge. The major flooding rains extends for the remainder of St. Mary Parish and partially into Iberia and St. Martin Parish, and then the moderate flooding rain extends over to Vermilion, Lafayette, St. Landry, and Avoyelles parishes. The tornado threat for the next couple of days is mainly over in south central Louisiana and portions of central Louisiana based on where the track of this system is going to go. So along the path, which right now shows it coming up to south central Louisiana and into the eastern sections of central Louisiana, like Avoyelles Parish, that's going to be the threat zone for the tornado threat. So our summary sheet here, moderate confidence that this event's going to occur and moderate for the impact. So we're looking at strong wind gusts, Cameron eastward of Morgan City, but extending inland to Crowley, Lafayette, and Breaux Bridge. We may have to say even further west than that towards Lake Charles for some of these stronger wind gusts. Obviously, with these gusty winds, we're going to see some power outages and trees blown down. Over there in Acadiana, where we're calling for all this rain, it's going to cause the trees to fall down that much easier in the winds because of the moist soils. So we are looking at the storm surge flooding also for Vermilion, Iberia, St. Mary parishes, this torrential, life-threatening rainfall event that's going to be occurring in portions of south central Louisiana. Right now we're bullseyeing lower St. Martin and St. Mary. Tomorrow this could extend further up to Lafayette. You just don't know. So this is what we got today. Stay tuned tomorrow. We'll see if this has to get adjusted further inland for the dangerous heavy rain threat as well. Isolated tornadoes over there in south central and parts of central Louisiana for the next couple of days, and of course the dangerous marine conditions. So that's what I've got here at the National Weather Service, Carl, and I'm going to